Walrus Audio are back with a new addition to their Slö family of ambient reverbs with this, the Slöer, or the Slöer as it's more likely to be pronounced. I'm going to take my usual higher energy down to match the feeling of the pedal in this video, so please don't fall asleep. But it's time for my top 5 tones, one for each reverb program of the Slö. The Slöer has the same 3 reverb programs as the Slö and 𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗏, plus 2 new ones. It's also got a new texture control called Stretch. It's available in 2 finishes, this classic Slö blue expanded design, which is my favorite. There's also a flat black option, and both versions are coming in at around $349. My guitar's going in mono at the moment, but it's going stereo out into my Roland JC-40. And I'm miking that up with 2 Lewitt MTP 440s, and I've panned those hard left and hard right. I really recommend listening to this video with headphones on. As usual, the white LED is super bright, so I'm going to put that over there to stop blinding you and the rest of the universe. And this is tone 1, which is the Rise program. This is a swelling cinematic reverb, and the X control here controls how long it takes for that swell to come in. So all the way to the left, it'll be pretty much instant. And the further I go to the right, there'll be more of a pause. The Slöer also has a width control, and I'm going to set it to wide for most of these tones, so you get the full width in that stereo field. Beautiful. Right, let's go for the dark mode for tone 2, and this adds a sub-octave to the reverb tail, and the X being the control of the level of that sub-octave. So all the way down will be no sub-octave. And then bring it up to max will be maximum volume for that sub-octave. Giving you this organ sort of sound. For tone number 3, let's use one of the new programs called Rain. This is a lower level of diffusion, giving us this sort of grainy rain stick sort of sound. With it all the way to the left, we get quite granular stuff. And then to the right, we get a smoother sound. For tone 4, let's use the light program, which is opposite of the dark, meaning we have an octave up. Everyone's favorite worship reverb, the shimmer. And for this, the X controls the level of that shimmer, all the way to the left being off, all the way to the right being maximum. I'll put it right in the middle. So tone number 5 is, of course, Dream, the second new program that's being brought to the Slöer. And this is a reverb with a latching pad function. And for this, you can use the X control to add vibrato to that latched sustained pad. So I'm going to play something, hit that sustain, and it will latch on forever. It is interesting to note that once you've latched this, anything you play afterwards is not affected by the pedal. So you've got a completely clean signal going over top of that sustain. Slöer, which I might call it the Slöer. I might change between those two during this video, by the way. The Slöer has 3 presets. We've got blue, change it by pressing both switches at the same time. We've got red, and then green, and back to blue again. If you find something you like and you want to store it in one of those 3 presets, you hold down both buttons, it'll flash purple. That's now saved to the blue preset. You can also factory reset it if you want to get back those original presets, should you want to. Let's go through the rest of the knobs and switches. Top right, mix. All the way to the left is just your clean guitar with no effect. All the way to the right is purely effect with no clean guitar. Depth is for the modulation. You want more wobbly? Go all the way to the right. No wobble? Go all the way to the left. Filter is a tone control for the reverb trails. All the way to the left is very dark. All the way to the right is brighter. Decay is how long those trails are. Then for width, we've got wide, medium, and narrow. So that's how much stereo field you have. X, I've been through on the individual tones for the mode. And then stretch is something new. This is used to time stretch that reverb algorithm by lowering the sample rate, which is possibly hard to understand, so it's easier just to play something and I'll show you. For this, I'm going to push the mix all the way up, so you're not going to hear any clean guitar, just the effect. I think that's really cool. I think I understand what it's doing, but most importantly, I can use it creatively. So there's the thing. So let's talk about the modulation, because there are actually 5 different modulation modes, which you can see in parentheses on the mode name. So they're just here, almost hidden away, but not quite. If you hold down the bypass switch, the LED will start flashing. Then you can choose which waveform you want. You can also change the rate of that using the depth knob. So that's super slow. Faster, 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 fastest. Okay, so I'm going to stay on the dream mode. There we go. And I'm going to select all the different modes at probably their fastest, just to show you the most extreme. And we'll put the mix up to max as well. So first is the sine, which you've been hearing so far. So that was nice and even. Then to change it to the warp one, which is like a sort of broken record, warped record I should say, hold down bypass and just switch it there. Release, then go back to dream. So that was a little less predictable. Then hold it down to bypass again. We're going to go to sync, which is just there. Back to dream. Next one is square, which is on and off. It's more immediate than the sine wave. I think that might be my favorite. Now let's try the new one, random. Oh, also, square was also new, by the way. Back to dream. Now onto something I almost missed, the momentary sustain feature. So let's put that mix back to 50% and let's do this. I think that's super useful. I think just generating that pad underneath is very useful. Okay, time to review it. Do I think you should buy the Slöer? The Slöer, or the slower. I think that Walrus Audio might just be messing with us at this point, which is both frustrating and endearing as well. Yeah, so whenever I review a Walrus Audio ambient style pedal like the 𝗨 or the 𝗚𝗡𝗨 or the 𝗬𝗏𝗏 or the Slö, I think I've always said, I wish they did a stereo version. And people always write in the comments, well, if you want a stereo version, you need twice the DSP, so therefore it's going to be too expensive. This is $349, which is $100 more. Hang on, let me check.
Moments later.
Just over $100 more than the 𝗬𝗏𝗏, which is the one with the presets. So you're getting a stereo version for another 50% almost of what you've paid. Yeah, it's about 50% more, but it is stereo. And you're getting the new modulations, and you're getting the new reverb programs. So I guess the first question that comes to mind that I think you might ask is, what if I don't have a stereo amp like the JC-40? You can still run this in mono, and while you won't get the spread that I've been getting in this video, it still should sound pretty cool. In fact, if I disconnect the right cable there and the right cable there, I can just play it quickly in mono. So interesting, if you want to put it in mono mode after you've used it in stereo, you need to recycle the power, which is obvious, I guess. Sorry. So it's not quite as fun, but it is fun still. So you're still getting those extra patches and those extra waveforms. However, I think this really is the most powerful, obviously, when it's in stereo. So yes, unsurprisingly, if you have a stereo amp, and I really do recommend the JC-40, then the Slöer is a very powerful pedal. Without it, it's still powerful, but not quite as. And it just doesn't feel as big and wonderful and washy. But it's, you know, maybe you could use 2 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 or something like that. That would be amazing. So that's a cheap way, probably cheaper than getting the JC-40 actually. 2 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏50s, that'll sort you. Or 2 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏50s. That's even cheaper, I think. I love the fact that we have sliders on there, which I'm used to now from the Fundamental series. You can really see what's going on and what your settings are. Although it is not wasted, but not as visual if this were a more basic pedal such as the Fundamental series line of pedals, where you've got just 3 controls on sliders. Here you've got sub-menus with the waveforms being on the mode switch. Yeah, let's talk about that. This pedal is not simple. It's not a one knob fuzz or no knob fuzz, but it's not massively complicated and fairly intuitive. And I got my way around it pretty simply, even without reading the manual. I did, however, read the manual before making this video. That was definitely prudent because I wasn't sure about the entire settings of the bypass and mode waveform thing. I guessed, I wasn't sure. I got it right. One thing I'm not sure about is this width knob, because for my personal preference, I would just keep it on wide all the time. I want massive, massive stereo fields. I like that it's there. I think that it's a good idea for people who don't want it so wide, if you're not into the width. But for me, it's width all the way. And finally, if you already own the Slö or the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, should you upgrade to the Slöer? That depends. If you have a stereo setup, yes, do it. If you want those extra modes and you have a mono setup, maybe. If you don't have any Slö or 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 pedal from Walrus Audio, I would personally skip those other 2 now and go straight to this one and then get a second amp for stereo goodness, which I know is expensive, but once you've done it, once you've experienced sitting in a stereo field of ambient reverb, I don't think you'll ever go back, and you can waste many hours. So, you know, cancel your Netflix subscription because you won't be spending any time watching TV once you have a setup like that. I know from experience. So my final word on the Slöer is that it is absolutely fantastic. I think we might have reached peak Slö in the Slöer. I might have said Slö at some point in this video as well. However, if you already own a Slö or a 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, then you might not need this. That's the bottom line. Right, there are links down there to up-to-date pricing and more information in your region. There is a button right there if you want to subscribe to the channel and see more from me in the future. Massive thanks to Walrus Audio for sending out this pedal and answering my request of finally making more stereo stuff. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!